How's it going, everyone? Name's Luxley, and I want to talk about what World of Warcraft needs. A lot of people have different ideas about where WoW went wrong and how to fix it and yada, yada, yada. One of the things I had even said was it's time for them to reboot the game. It's time for them to upgrade the engine for many different reasons. They could protect their assets a lot better from hackers and exploiters. They can bring in a new generation of gamers who grew up knowing better graphics, who grew up being entertained by better graphics and drawn to better graphics, as opposed to a guy like myself who once thought Pac-Man was amazing. Maybe it was, but my point is, my level of expectation is certainly not as high as today's teenager, and that's WoW's audience. So there's a lot of good reasons to fix the game. Some people will say they need an overhaul in PvP, more towards an esports thing. Some people will say they need to tweak the rating, provide more rating, etc., etc. So everybody has an opinion, and I think a lot of people have a point when they throw their ante into this pot. But there's one thing that no one's ever mentioned, and I'm going to get to that in a few minutes. But first I want to tell you a little story that certainly is very, very relevant to what I'm about to say. I went to go see Star Wars, The Force Awakens. I was going to wait till the hype died down because I figured, hey, I waited 10 years to see a Star Wars movie again, so hey, what's another few days going to be? And I don't like lines. I don't like waiting in line to buy a ticket. I don't like waiting in line to buy popcorn. And then the couple in front of me who's been waiting for 20 minutes, they get to the counter and the girl behind the counter says, "What would you like?" And he looks at her and says, "I don't know, honey, what do you want?" And she looks at him and says, "I don't know, what do you want?" Meanwhile, they had 20 minutes to figure out what they fucking wanted. So I don't like waiting on lines. I didn't want to wait online to just get into the theater. So me and a buddy, we went to go see Star Wars, the 11:20 show, very late. I figured we could avoid the lines. There would be availability of tickets, and we were dead right. We managed to do both. We go to see the movie, and it's packed. I mean, the only empty seats are up front, and I don't want to sit up front because I'm afraid that a TIE fighter is just going to like smack into my forehead or something. So I didn't want to sit in the first two rows. Most people don't either. So we're looking around for seats, and we see these two seats next to this middle-aged couple. We ask if they're available. They say yes. And then the guy looks at me in all seriousness, and he says, "Well, we're just here for the trailers." And I'm like, that's an odd thing to say. I'm thinking to myself, if I was on the internet, I'd be like, "You fucking asshole. This is Star Wars. You don't come to watch the trailers." But it's not the internet, so I have a sense of, hey, don't say that. So these two are sitting there, and they're saying, "Oh, we're leaving after the trailers." And I was like, I had to ask. I mean, I was just curious. I'm like, why are you just here for the trailers? He's like, "Oh, we work for a company that makes sure that the movie theaters play the trailers." I said, "Really? That's interesting." I said, "So in other words, you're telling me that the movie theaters are paid to show trailers?" And he's like, "Yeah." I says, "Well, how much do they get paid?" He says, "Well, depending on what night and what showing it is and what movie they're showing the trailers during, it's generally anywhere from, say, $3 to $10. So I'm thinking, wow, that's pretty amazing, because you figure they're in a multiplex, there might be 10 movies playing and 4 different time slots for each movie. You're talking over 30 movies. You're talking, they show about 8 previews nowadays. I'm sure they're getting paid for the ads. So even if 3 people buy tickets to a particular time slot, they're probably still getting a couple of $100 just to show the movie with the ads and the trailers. And I thought this was really interesting. So I kind of said, "Well, you guys are kind of like a retail spy." And they're like, "Yeah." I'm like, that's kind of interesting. And one of the previews is Warcraft, the movie. Now, I've been doing things lately to try to escape Warcraft and Blizzard because, that's been a major debacle for me. I am infuriated that the devs at Blizzard have found new and improved ways to fuck up World of Warcraft and kind of pat themselves on the back for it. Not for fucking things up, but actually thinking they've improved the game. Meanwhile, they just completely disregard the sub numbers, which have been in a steady decline for the last 4 or 5 years. So that's annoying to me. They just found ways to take value out of the game. They found a way to take choices out of the game. They found a way to take complexity out of the game. They found a way to copy and paste and rehash old content. And there's just a lack of ingenuity. There's just a lack of creativity in the game. Now, I still love the game. Otherwise, I honestly would not play it. I don't love it as much as I did in Wrath of the Lich King, let alone Cata, but I still do enjoy the game. I'd be lying to everyone if I said I didn't. And I think part of me is hoping for that renewal of what it used to be. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So another reason why I'm a bit adamant towards WoW and Blizzard is the whole fact that I did not get into the alpha. Here I am, I'm a guy who has produced 500 videos, has 7,000 subs, 500 videos pertaining to WoW, essentially giving Blizzard free promotion for their game. Yes, I get compensated via ad revenues from the videos, but I don't get compensated by Blizzard. They are getting free promotion for their game. And I get nothing for it. And there were people that were less than half my size that have been around for less than half the amount of time I've been producing WoW videos, and they got into the alpha. They got into the Legion Alpha. And this pissed me off royally. I'm not going to pull any punches here. I was infuriated at Blizzard for not including me in the alpha. And especially when I've also seen some of the larger YouTubers who were absolutely despondent, nasty, and utterly classless towards the Blizzard devs in multiple videos. And yet they got into the Legion Alpha. So yeah, I have an axe to grind. I'm pretty pissed off. And then to make me even more pissed off, they turn around and they say, you botted, you're banned for 6 months. No, I did not bot, but I figured I'd appeal it. But there's really no venue to appeal it. All I do is get automated email responses. So those of you who are subscribed to me know that story. I don't mean to rinse and repeat and rehash, but I needed to do that to get to this point. Because here I am, I'm going to see Star Wars with a buddy of mine a little bit earlier than I had anticipated or even wanted to do because I wanted to avoid the crowds. But I went to avoid World of Warcraft and just get away and go see a movie I've been looking forward to for a very long time. And what do I see? I see the Warcraft trailer. So now I'm in my smart-ass mind is connecting the dots, thinking Blizzard probably paid these two people to make sure that their trailer was shown during Star Wars, so they could generate money for the film that's going to come out eventually. And hey, I'm very excited about the film. I think it looks incredible, and I'm like also wondering why do you need two people to verify that a trailer has been played? I mean, it sounds like a job that one person could do on his own. What does, the girl have to do? Look at the guy and say, did you see them play that trailer? And then he says, yes, I did. Did you see them play that trailer? And she says, yes, I did. And they need two people to verify this, whatever. So then I'm watching Star Wars, and this is a spoiler-free review. I'm not getting into details about the movie. I'm just telling you it is fucking incredible. Absolutely incredible. Forget the idea of high expectations and almost the near impossibility of living up to those expectations. The movie is fucking amazing. Amazing. And I started to think, why? Why is it amazing? And I realized because George Lucas wasn't behind the helm. But that's a conundrum because George Lucas is the guy who conceived Star Wars. He's the guy that created Star Wars. He's the guy that breathed life into Star Wars. First movie, absolutely groundbreaking on many different levels. And it set forth a whole new realm of special effects in movies. It was an incredible, incredible film. It is a classic. The second movie was even better. And that movie is a classic movie, not a classic sci-fi movie. It is a classic, amazing movie. The third movie was good. It wasn't great. It wasn't average. It was better than average. It was good. three good movies. Overall, very good movies. The next three movies that Lucas did were utter fucking garbage. They were just incredibly bad. Bad casting, Jar Jar Binks, the kid who played Anakin Skywalker, the adult, as if you didn't think you could have a worse Anakin Skywalker than the young kid who played him. I think his name was Jake Lloyd. Let's introduce Hayden Christensen and make Jake Lloyd look like an Academy Award nominated actor, because that's precisely what Hayden Christensen did. He is a terrible, terrible actor. He was horrendous. And then a romance between him and Natalie Portman was kind of good in the second movie, and even it was good. It wasn't bad. And then in the third movie, it was just too hokey and too ridiculous. You know, I mean, Natalie Portman's character went from this very fighter type of independent woman to barefoot and pregnant and crying 24/7. So I don't know. I have to say, though, I have to give credit where credit is due. The Revenge of the Sith, or whatever the third movie's called, is that scene between Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi is classic. It is epic. And that saved the movie in my eyes. That is a movie worth seeing, but unfortunately, to understand what's going on, you have to stomach through, so bring a Barth bag, the first two movies. Bring in J.J. Abrams, the guy who resurrected the Star Trek franchise, licked his fingers, turned the page, and said, hey, now I'm going to resurrect Star Wars. And he did it. He took it by the horns, and he did it. Which, my analogy here is, I see a lot of parallels between Star Wars and World of Warcraft. Both are franchises. Star Wars has been around since the 70s. And World of Warcraft's been around since the 90s with the real-time strategy game for the PC. And both of them are beloved franchises with great story. And the fact is, we all know that Blizzard likes to steal ideas. And a lot of the ideas they stole, such as the whole Lich King thing, comes from Star Wars. But we're not going to go there. I'm sure someone's going to leave a dislike for that one. Come on, Darth Vader, Lich King. I mean, they're almost twins separated at birth. So the fact is, there are a lot of interesting parallels between the two franchises. And I'm not necessarily talking about the story. I'm talking about the level of quality. I'm talking about the level of value to the fans. I'm talking about the entertainment value. First three movies, very much like Vanilla, BC, and Lich King. Epic. Epic, epic, epic. The second three movies, very much like Kata, Mop, and Wad. Except while the Star Wars movie was on the rise with each of the three movies, the WoW franchise was on the decline with each of those three X-Packs. There is a very interesting parallel here. Now, if you take a look at the Star Wars franchise, like I said, George Lucas is the guy behind it, but George Lucas is not really a director. He is a guy that likes to experiment. He is a guy that likes to experiment with special effects. He's pretty much the father of special effects in movies with his Industrial Light and Magic gig. George Lucas is the kind of guy who likes to take risks, and he's not a very collaborative kind of person. A big reason why it took him so long to produce the second trio of movies is simply because the studios would not let him do what he wanted with it. They wanted their say. They wanted their input because they knew they were going to have to put up a lot of money, and Lucas wanted nothing to do with that. Lucas is not a good people person. He is not a good director in the sense of bringing out the best in his actors. He's not. That's not his forte. When people were saying, don't do this or don't do that with the second trio of movies, he just basically put everybody on mute and did what he wanted. And look at the fucking results. He almost killed the franchise. 1 minute extra of seeing Jar Jar Binks away from being in the coffin buried. That's how bad those 3 movies were. And I kind of look at World of Warcraft and I think, WoD's the same way. Warlords of Draenor, the fun, is such a terrible expansion. It is horrible. Now, if you're a raider, you're going to disagree, and I strongly believe, yes, you do have a point. They did improve the rating, but they didn't give you enough. You're raiding Hellfire Citadel for at least a year, and this is the 4th X-Pack in a row that you're raiding the last raid for over a year. So there's something very incompetent and irresponsible and downright negligent about that. And that's why I would include raiding into it as well. Warlords of Draenor, the fun, was just utterly, utterly terrible. And I'm thinking, what World of Warcraft needs to be resurrected is new blood. New blood as far as the devs are concerned. I'm not saying fire all the devs, because all the devs are kind of like George Lucas. They're the ones that gave birth to this baby. They're the ones that created it. They're the ones that made it live and breathe, and they are the ones that nurtured it, and they're the ones who essentially are killing it right now. And I don't mean killing it in a good way, like killing it. I nailed it. Give me a gold star for the refrigerator. No, I mean killing it in the sense of choking it and finding a funeral home to have people say goodbye to it. They are killing it. And you have to keep in mind, though, these are the same people that created it. And there is that possibility that they're going to catch lightning in a bottle again and improve it and bring back the glory. There's a possibility. Wouldn't say it's a slim possibility. It's certainly not a very good possibility, but it's a decent possibility you could place a little bit of hope on. But what World of Warcraft really, really needs right now is an infusion of new creative blood to work with the existing devs. And I think you would have something absolutely magical. Matter of fact, Legion could be that. It could be something magical. I think it will be good. I don't think it will be magical, though, because that key component of fresh new blood, of the J.J. Abrams guy stepping in, providing his insight, his direction, his vision, doesn't exist. It's the same guys who created WoD. It's the same guys who created Mist of Panderia. The same guys who created Cata, Lich King, BC, and Vanilla. And they're getting further and further removed from their creative juices, from their inspiration. They need an injection of a new dev. Somebody who could put this franchise back on track. And like I said, I'm not going to discount the fact that Legion has the ability to do that. It is very, very possible it does. But there needs to be more of a collaboration. There needs to be someone who's got an idea about the World of Warcraft franchise, someone who's a fan of it, somebody who can fix it. And sure, they brought in a guy like Holinka, but Holinka drank the Kool-Aid, and Holinka managed to add his little special touch of fuck everything up, because that's precisely what he's done. I like the guy. He takes a lot of heat. He takes a lot of pressure. He handles it like a pro and a champ. But when it comes to what he's doing with PvP or what he's signing off with on PvP, it's part of the problem and not part of the solution. World of Warcraft needs an infusion of new devs and new blood. And I'm not saying chop off the heads of the existing ones or fire them. I'm saying something collaborative. This is Luxley saying, whatever it is about you, morning, afternoon, or night, make it great. Luxley out.